is. I'm in the computer museum, and it's quite nice. It's nicely set up. It's set up like a kind of a front room with... I've just recognised this. This is something I worked on at Microsoft. It's the Surface. Wasn't particularly a coffee table, but it was originally the prototype for the Surface before they brought out the Surface a little while ago. So yeah, so it's been a while since I've seen this. Again, it's quite a nice setup with chairs for gaming. Yeah, it's quite a chilled out place. Apparently there's a bit of a coffee shop as well around here. They've got the Xbox 360. I can remember that when it was in a lot of the stores, just a demo of the Xbox at the time. And the original Xbox there, which I have one at home as well, and the 360. And an arcade classics cabinet, which just got Ghosts and Gobblers running. And we have a CD32, which is running on quite an old CRT, which is probably why you can see it flickering on here because of the refresh rate. Funnily enough, this TV here with the Sony isn't, so the refresh rate must be matching this camera. And then there's a few more arcades, so just to give you an idea of the room itself, which is quite cool. It's actually really well laid out. We have some more of the older teletype systems and Model 1 TRS-80, which was probably my second home computer, and then you've got the Apple II next to it, followed by a Commodore PET, or Personal Electronic Transactor. I think that was its original. Not sure if this original Altair. Possibly, with an IMSAT 8080 on the bottom. Another PET running a Starship Enterprise game, which is quite funky, and it looks like it was originally off cassette. They look smaller in real life than they actually were when I was using them. I was a lot younger then though, so things felt a little bit bigger. That is, or was, my very first calculator, which I think I've still got at home, and it was a Commodore. I think it was around about the time when they were getting wiped out by Texas, when that one model was out. And a 2001 series PET with its internals on display. And here's another machine I'm trying to find a good one of, the old Atari 800. Not sure why, but it's one of the machines I didn't have. I did have the 400. Which I could never really get used to the keyboard, but you know, at the time it was alright. Fully set up TRS-80 Model 1 with the expansion unit, printer, cassette deck, and your video genies. The Model 1, or the Genie 1, was one I've only used briefly because they were at being phased out when I went to the computer room or labs at school, and then they were being replaced by the BBC Micro. Okay, so this apparently was the world's first sold as an assembled product. 1976. Looks more like it's based on a Video Genie, but it's got a similar style case to it. And a Challenger 2P, which I haven't seen in kind of the flesh, so to speak, for quite a while. And then some more TRS-80 Radio Shack computers. And one of these, which I'm trying to get hold of. Either that or the Alice, but they're just as difficult nowadays. Commodore VIC-20, which is in a custom case with expansion cards, which is quite neat. Sharp MZ, yeah, they're getting a bit hard in working condition to find. And I've had two of these Aquariuses and HX20, which nice looking, but you can't do a lot with. Followed by the lasers. Which are built on the Sinclair platform, at least one of them is. I believe it's these two at the front. And again, MSX, which this is one which I've been trying to find for ages. For some reason, I've always liked that one, but I don't know why. It's yeah, the SV328 is something I haven't been able to find. I used to see it around and about at the time, but they didn't produce that many of them, so they're hard to get hold of. And we have the Sinclair collection, the QL, the 80, 81 and the Spectrum. Kind of find this a lot better laid out than the museum in Cambridge. I don't know why, I think that one seemed a little bit more formal. Very, very corporate. Where this one isn't, and it's kind of a nice atmosphere to wander around in. So here we have Commodore Corner with the VIC-20s, 8296s, 8032s, which are all of Jack Trammell's vision of what business computers should really be looking like. And then you have the Commodore 64, which was technically as powerful, or in some cases even more powerful, than these business machines. And then we have the Commodore home computers including the Max, various silver label versions of the 64s, and the Aldi in the grey, which to be honest I prefer the Aldi look of it, followed by the 116, the 16, and the 232. And the various iterations of its casing as well on the bottom, including the 64D, which are quite hard to get hold of in the UK. So we've got the Plus 4, obviously the Plus 4 and the 232 are in a very similar case. And the stalwart of the UK educational system, which was the BBC Micro, followed by Apples, now I was wondering when we're going to get to the TI-99 and the 4A, which is really technically the first 16-bit home computer, but it was a little bit hamstrung by having a cut down data bus. So yeah, it was literally had a processor that was used in their minis at the time. For whatever reason, probably cost cutting, they decided to use their mini computer processor but hamstring it for a home machine. New brain without the LCD panel. Again, another UK based machine, along with the Acorn Atom and the Electron. The Auric, which is literally in the same postcode as where I actually live now, which is where it was designed and built. The Z88 with one of the nicest kind of rubber key keyboards. For some reason it really does work, and a DK-Tronics version or two versions of its case that you could just get a different keyboard for it, which made it feel a lot nicer to use. And then we got an Amiga 2000 and a Cirrus Genlock. Long before you have digital files and basically digital editing, you had to sync up the two outputs so you didn't get flickering over the top, which you can see here when I come up to this monitor here. So it would synchronize both of the pictures or the displays that you were trying to splice together or overlay graphics on or overlay text on, which is something you don't have to worry about now. And what computer museum wouldn't be complete without a Sinclair C5? Then we had Amstrad using the Sinclair name on the PC200, which is basically a desktop keyboard based PC. It did look alright, it looked kind of Amiga-ish style, but I don't think it was much of a success. So we have obviously a pile of Commodore monitors, 128s, A500. Still like the Amiga A500, but for some reason the Atari ST is one of my favourite from that era. It just seems more useful nowadays. Atari 800. Got BBC Master towards the end of its run, when they were trying to squeeze as much as they could out of the platform. Got 260 ST and a 520 ST, which I own one of these myself anyway. Quite like it. And then a Mega STE And a Sam Coupe, the ex Clive Sinclair employees went to set up Miles Gordon Technology to produce the coupe. It wasn't really much of a success, but a few were produced and they're highly sought after. Then we have a Philips NMS 8280 with a polyphonic keyboard set up to it. Obviously it was used to record and maybe edit your sounds, and it actually doesn't sound bad. No, it doesn't sound bad at all, really. Can't really play with one hand, but there you go. It's yeah, it would have been a nice tool to have at the time, and along with a lot of the MSX systems as well, which are a little bit on the rare side, some of them, especially in the UK, because although it was popular, it didn't really hit the mark, so to speak, because I think it was a little bit too late, because by that time, you know, the usual Commodore, Sinclair, and the Amiga and the Atari STs was really starting to come to the fore. So this is one I actually have at home, which is, you know, Amstrad's kind of foray into the PC market, and there's plenty of them as we come all the way down here. Tulips, machine that I haven't seen for a while. They were again used in schools. But, you know, as the kind of PC became the machine, you got the usual form factors. And remember when you had to keep everything on CDs rather than a couple of memory sticks now, or memory keys, or a small hard drive. Don't really recognise any of these, to be honest. They look like, yeah, Russian Spectrums. Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? They made a nicer job of the keyboards and stuff like that than we ever did. Probably apart from that one. No, this is more of my system. I actually have this exact keyboard at home, PSR 60, and the same very similar setup for my own recording kind of thing. And it's this is where the Ataris really come into their own, because the MIDI channels on them really did make a lot of difference, and it makes it useful even today. And then there's one of my older machines that I used to have, the 500 plus. Don't have one anymore. I'm just trying to probably find one. And neither do I have the 1200. That went, I think that went to fund a PC a very, very long time ago. And so did my CD TV, which I quite liked. There wasn't much you could do with it, really. But I did like the keyboard on it, and I did like the form factor, which I thought was quite nice. And the only reason I have an A600 is because I have a MIDI adapter with it, and I use it for a lot of my keyboards. So again, that becomes a very useful computer because of its size. And your Falcon 030. Not many of those around. And then if you look on the top there, there's an IT Unlimited. I've got one of those at home, and it's one of the things that my little ones used to love using. So I might get it out for them, see if they still feel the same after all these years. Probably not. Things have moved on. Then we come to the Amiga side of it and the ST, so the 90s home machines. They include BBC Master, which was coming to the end of its life, so they were trying to get as much out of the platform as possible. The 128D, which you don't see many of. I've got a 128, but not the D model. I had a Colour Computer 2. This is the 3. And then we start moving towards the PC end, which is down here. But first, we look at the Sam Coupe, Miles Gordon Technology, which was part of, originally they were part of Sinclair. They moved away to produce their own machine based on the next generation Spectrum. It was good, but it didn't sell because it was too late, and by that time the 16-bit machines had really taken a foothold. And your Philips keyboard, yeah, a bit difficult to play with one hand, but yeah, it's good. Sounds really good. Follow around to the PC area. You got the XT PCs, and we follow on with the IBM line, Amstrad, which was a low-cost entry-level PC, which did do well. Head Start Vendex, not sure about those, but that was 1988 apparently. Tulip, which haven't seen Tulip PC for a long time, which is nice to see. This was predominantly kind of the schools or colleges model. Yeah, and it works its way through to what would be the standard kind of form factor, such as Escom, who took over Amiga and then went bust less than 18 months later. So yeah, they didn't fare very well. They were everywhere at one point. Laserdisc system, and your kind of generic laptops and PCs. I mean, the Tandy one's quite interesting, because, again, you didn't see that many in the UK, nor did you see many Tulip 386 laptops, but they were alright. I mean, they're quite nice looking machines. And we have more of the Commodore clone machines, which was towards the end of Commodore, really. Followed by Windows 95 machine, which was a game changer when it was brought out. Acer PCs, which you don't really see a lot of now because it's not really a big deal anymore. And then as we go up to a little bit more modern systems, such as Dell, and into the Inspiron laptop range and Lenovo PCs. This side we have Mac. I have one of these, which I use for my keyboards, and it's very stable. It gets used on GarageBand and a few other things, and it's just never goes wrong. So that's all it is getting or gets used for. Never really liked these, but you know, some people did. Same with this. And again, Apple was tended to be at the time more style over function, and that includes the anniversary Macintosh here, which yeah, it didn't sell very well and it was incredibly expensive. And then we come into the software side of it, which is all nicely laid out as big box games, etc. Nearly all games. It's very difficult to find something that you really want to play here because there's too many of it. Yeah, and then the usual semi-adult kind of games that were out at the time. All pretty tame really, but they all had an 18 rating on them. And then that, you wouldn't get away with that today, to be honest. And then that means something very different nowadays, especially in 2025. The Seventh Guest, which I had a copy for the PC, I actually quite liked it. It was a very hard game to play, but the visuals were really good and they were groundbreaking for the time because it used FMV and standard graphics. But at the time, not many people had the machines able to play it, especially with your CD-ROMs, Sandblaster cards, all of this stuff you needed to play the game on. So it probably would have done better a little bit later on in its lifetime, but it did all right.